A Florida man looking to relocate to East Tennessee says he's worried about shootings when it comes to the safety of his family. He asked about crime in Knoxville on Facebook over the weekend, and hundreds of people responded saying they felt safe. And we wanted to look into the crime data and see how other cities compare to Knoxville.
10 News reporter Sean Franklin went to the Knoxville Police Department for those numbers and to see what they are doing to combat violent crime. Sean?
Robin, John, so far this year in 2018, we've seen 18 homicides in Knox County. The Knoxville Police Department has handled 13 of those investigations.
Sean Cheever posted the question on Facebook over the weekend. How do people feel about the safety in the Knoxville area? How do people feel about safety in the Knoxville area? He lives in Florida now, and he's trying to decide if he wants to move with his daughter and father to East Tennessee. Hundreds of people responded to the post, and Cheever says 90% were positive. Overall, the commenters felt safe.
That makes us feel better because it shows that people are noticing the effort we make.
Eve Thomas is the chief deputy over the investigative division at KPD.
We're out there trying and really trying to work hard on it.
They're working hard to prevent future homicides. KPD averages about 25 homicides a year. So far this year, it's investigated 13 homicides. That's one more than it saw this time last year. Thomas says most are drug-related.
We'll have the outliers that are domestic-related and things, but most of it has to do with drugs.
Data from the TBI shows the murder rate in Knoxville this year was 0.18 per 1,000 people. That's similar to the rates in Chattanooga and Nashville. The murder rate in Memphis is higher at 0.28 per 1,000 people. To keep those rates down, KPD has a 14-officer team that specializes in reducing violent crime in the city by being proactive.
We look for those drug arrests, we look for those illegal weapons. We try and get that off the street, and we have those folks that just head out immediately. They identify people that are people who have been around violence.
Cheever says because most of the comments were positive, he's planning a family trip this summer to check out East Tennessee. Robin, John.
Good to hear, Sean. Thank you.